and welcome to Book and Loop, where happiness is handmade and the best boyfriends are always found in books. So today's video is going to be a writing vlog because I've been doing a lot of writing over the past few weeks, especially since the new year, and I am super excited about all the projects that I'm working on, and I just really want to share them with you guys. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so there are a total of 4 different projects that I'm working on right now. If I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of working on all different novel length projects. I have been completely bitten by the writing bug the last few weeks, and have just been writing consistently and constantly, and because of that, literally just like all over the place with my writing and what I'm writing about. So, first and foremost, I will talk about my project that I was talking about in my 2022 writing vlog, which was book 2. So I'm going to flash a chart up on the screen for you guys of the different projects that I am working on so that you can kind of get a better idea of exactly what I am talking about. So first and foremost, we have Tag, which is the first novel that I've ever written. It's the one that I'm currently querying to different literary agents. That is a fantasy novel, a little bit Fire Emblem-y vibes to it. I'm a huge fan of the Fire Emblem games, and I always am looking for books that kind of give those vibes. And so I figured, why not write one myself, right? That makes sense. I am also passing it around to some of my friends and family so that they can read it as well, just to kind of get feedback. So then I also have the sequel to Tag, which I will call Tag 2. That is the sequel to that story. Then, so I have my other story, which is more of a contemporary with a dash of magic in it. I have a title that I really love for it, but I don't want to share it just yet, just because obviously things change, and I don't know if it's going to be the same going forward. When I first started writing the book and I didn't have a title for it yet, I would call it Project Purple. Um, so I'm going to refer to this book as Project Purple. So the next project that I am working on is like a personal project, one that I don't think I will ever share with the world, but it's still, I mean, part of my writing projects for 2022. Still a project that I want to work on continuously. It's the one I've been working on the most over the last 2 to 3 days. So I felt like it was valid to talk about it in this video. And then the final project that I have in the works is actually a supernatural fantasy type book where it's about a werewolf hunter, Little Red Riding Hood retelling. That is like my secret passion project. As I mentioned in my 2022 reading goals video, I am a sucker for a good retelling. And so naturally it made sense that I would want to do a retelling myself. And I've always loved the Little Red Riding Hood story, so it just felt natural that I would do a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. So those are my main projects that I'm working on at the time. So I have, like I said, I have Tag, which is done. Then I have Tag 2, which is part way, like a quarter of the way written, but I wanted to pause on that. I feel like I needed to just like step into another project, otherwise I was just gonna become like obsessive over it, and I didn't want to let myself fall into that rabbit hole. So then I have Project Purple, which is like my biggest project that I'm working on this year. It's my main focus for 2022 is that I want to get draft 1 of Project Purple done. I feel like it is going to wind up being like one of my best projects. I'm already like super in love with the characters, and I'm super in love with like the world that I'm building, and like very much like obsessed with this story, and I'm hoping that one day I get to share it with you guys because I just think it's like a really exciting concept, and I don't want to like go into it too much beyond the fact that it's a contemporary with a dash of magic, which is like so far outside of like my comfort zone. Like anyone who knows me knows I do not really like read a lot of contemporary. I do enjoy it, but I'm way more of a fantasy person, which like if you watch my 2022 TBR video, you can kind of like see how like I really like expressly read fantasy. Like I have my TBR right behind me, and like 6 of the books are fantasy. The one I already read for this year was also fantasy, and then I have 2 that are contemporary. And then I do have a couple more that I'm going to be adding throughout the year that are also contemporary, but I'm kind of just like trying to like broaden my horizons a little bit. So I just finished reading Made in Korea by Sarah Suk, and then I also finished reading Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which were both contemporary romances that were kind of like a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I mean, like I do like reading romance, but like I like more so like a fantasy romance instead than like a contemporary one. I already live in a contemporary world, and I already like live every day being in like this same, for lack of a better term, mundane world. And I like the thrill of being in a fantasy world, but I'm trying to broaden my horizons a little bit. I also started reading Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which is like a murder mystery, which is like completely outside of like what I normally would be reading because I'm not a murder mystery kind of person. I'm super super not into like horror and thrillers. Not that Truly Devious is like a horror or a thriller, but like it's a murder mystery, and like that's not really like the kind of things that I'm normally into, but I'm really loving it. I mean, I love Maureen Johnson's writing. I read Name of the Star by her, gosh, very long time ago. I read the book by her, and I mean, she just has a beautiful way with words, and I really enjoy reading her writing. Um, and that's, I think, part of the reason that I'm really enjoying Truly Devious, is that I enjoy the characters that she creates in the world that she builds. So I'm going to start off by talking about Project Purple, because that is like I said, my big project for 2022. The breakdown of the book, so it follows a college age student, and the breakdown is broken down by like college year. I'm currently writing her freshman year, and I've written scenes and clips for um the other years already, so I kind of like have an idea of like where I want the story to go and how I want it to progress and how I want it to get there. But I'm just like really enjoying and like savoring these like freshman year chapters, because like I miss it. I do. I miss freshman year, and I miss the whole like thrill of moving in and meeting new people, and like kind of just like trying to figure out who you are. And I think that that's like such a vital part of being in college, is that, especially if you go away to college, is that trying to figure out who you are and what you're going to do, and like getting used to now being on your own. So I'm just like really enjoying writing about this. Um, this book kind of is, I guess you really would consider it like a crossover book, because it's like she's college age, so it's not like necessarily like YA, but it's also like not necessarily adult, because like it starts out and she's still like 17, 18 at the time. It is predominantly a contemporary romance, which I know I said like that's like not my cup of tea, but for whatever reason, I just feel like the words are just like spilling out of me with this book. This is like something that like I need to write for me. Project Purple is more like a traditional like romance story, like what you would expect to pick up if you were to pick up like Made in Korea, or if you were to pick up Better Than the Movies. but with a twist of magic. It's been a lot of fun. I'm having like a ton of fun writing it. I think it's different than anything that I've ever written before. As I had mentioned previously, like a lot of my I love fantasy and I usually write fantasy. And so it's weird to slip into like this modern world where like it takes place in New York and we are college students and we're going to English 101 classes. Just feels so different. And I think that the main difference is like the lack of world building. Not the lack of, but like the world building is a lot easier in contemporary than it is in fantasy. And like world building is like something that is so imperative to the success of a book, I feel like. I mean, like, if you could have a great story with great characters, but if the world isn't believable, if the magic system isn't believable, like, you're kind of like missing your mark, you know? Whereas, like, in a contemporary, you're you have a little more leeway because your world is already believable because these places exist and like somebody can look up New York or look up Long Island or look up wherever upstate and will know, okay, like this is a real place. And like it also is different because like you can go, like, as the writer to go and be like, okay, like my character lives in Staten Island. Like, okay, yes. Like I've been to Staten Island. I went to school there. I know Staten Island very well, so I can easily translate that world into my book and like easily bring that and put it in onto the page and have it be believable because it's my observations, it's what I've seen, and like I think that that's the purest form of research for a book, is when you're actually there and you get to experience it. Whereas like when I was writing Tag, I was creating this whole new world on my own and like figuring out like, okay, like is it going to be a world that's similar to ours? Is it going to be an alternate universe? Is it going to be where you have like a bunch of magical creatures, or is it going to be somewhere just like here but slightly different, you know? So it's like hard to make that decision and have to like go in and be like, okay, like I'm going to create this brand new world, this brand spanking new world, and we're gonna, you got to make it as believable as possible. And there are a lot of writers that are really, really incredible at that. I think like one of the strong points of books like Leigh Bardugo's Shadow and Bone or Victoria Aveyard's Red Queen is that their world's building is so rich and so thorough and full, and you can like, you feel like it's a real place and like you're really there. And I think that that's like, I don't know, like just like such like a stamp of like amazing writing, I guess. And it's something that like I strive to do with my writing, and whether or not it's successful remains to be seen, I guess. But it is like world building is such like an integral part, and like, and I'm not like downplaying contemporary genre. Like I mean like writing a book is hard. Like it's really hard. I mean like I've been trying to do it for years now and it's hard. There are people that will write books for years and years. It's supposed to be hard, you know? Like it's not supposed to be just like a sit down and bang out 100,000 words and send it off and get it published, you know? Like it's not for the weak hearted. That's like the biggest difference that I feel like I've noticed in writing contemporary versus fantasy, especially because my fantasy world was very similar to our current world. Um, and like the language is very similar because it was more so like an alternate universe rather than it being like a completely new place. But it's like, I don't know, I'm like enjoying it like a lot. Like I've been like, so my book, like I said, like what, there's like scenes in Staten Island, there's scenes in New York, there's scenes on Long Island, and these are all places that I've been and lived in and spent a lot of time in, so it's places I'm familiar with. And there's just like something so soothing about exploring your own home and your own backyard and like the places that mean something to you, but in a new context, where it's like you get to take your everyday life and you get to make it just a little more magical, and it's like incredible. Like I love it. Like I've been literally like obsessing over it, and like that's part of the reason that I think writing this book has been so addictive for me, is that like I've been able to now take the places that I've lived and the places that I love and to transform them into something new. So that, yeah. So the other project that I was talking about Little Red Riding Hood retelling, is one that I actually came up with one day while I was in my one of my creative writing classes, and we had to kind of just like write. We could write anything we wanted, but we had to write a short story, and it had to be like 5 pages. And I wrote like a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and Little Red Riding Hood was a werewolf hunter, and she comes across this man in the woods, and he's injured, and she kind of like takes him back to her cottage, and her grandmother was a werewolf hunter before her and trained her, and she's very wary of this stranger that's in her cottage. So I wrote this whole, it actually wound up being, I think, pretty long. Like it maybe wound up being about 10 pages, which is long for like a creative writing class. Like not obviously like not that long, but like it's long for a creative writing class. And my teacher gave me like really positive feedback about it and said that it was really strong, and like I really should like consider expanding it. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what, yeah, I want to expand this, because this is something that like I love. Like I love retellings, and I love getting to explore that world more, getting to explore that world in a different context, and like that's something that I'm sure will become a constant theme on this channel, because I love Greek mythology retellings, I love fantasy retellings, I love fairy tale retellings, I just love retellings. Like I love the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, I love Percy Jackson by Rick Riordan, I love the Grimm Sisters series by Michael Buckley. Um, so it's just like retellings are fun. They're just fun. Like, or even Selena Valentino writes the villain series for Disney, and they're just like basically like additional information about like the villains and like why they became villains. And I think stuff like that is just like so cool, like so exciting, and it makes me super excited to work on my own writing to get to the point where I am able to like create these really fleshed out retellings. Because I mean, when you think about it, Little Red Riding Hood is like not that long of a story, so to drag it out and create this whole new world and be inspired by that original story is the main part. But to take this classic that everybody knows and loves and grew up with and to transform it into something new, um, can be like a little daunting, because it's like this is like you can't mess it up, you know, because it's like that's Little Red Riding Hood, like that's like a childhood classic. I mean, I love the story and always have loved the story. I've been Little Red Riding Hood for Halloween like 4 times over the course of my life. And it's just like taking the jump and like actually doing it. And like right now, like that project's kind of like on the back burner, because Project Purple is my main concern for 2022. Just because I feel like I at this time more focused on it. This story like needs to be told first, and then I can worry about the Little Red Riding Hood retelling, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense. Yeah, so that was my very like messy writing vlog, just kind of like updating you on like exactly what projects I am currently working on. I know 2022 writing goal videos I did touch upon tag and wanting to get an agent, and Project Purple, and wanting to write more in it, but I have these other projects that I'm working on too, and I feel like they are equally as important to talk about. So I think that that is going to be all from me on my this writing vlog, and I am going to try and post another update at the end of this month, to give you guys an idea of where I am currently at on Project Purple. I have 15,000 words written, and I have about 40 pages at the moment. This is my laptop. I have cute stickers on it. um, so yeah, so I think that I'm thinking this will end up being about, I'm hoping 80,000. Like that was like where originally when I wrote tag it was over 100,000 and I was like, "Ooh, I really need to cut that down." So I did a bunch of rewrites and cut it down to be about 80,000, and I feel like this book should be about the same. And then I maybe have like 20 pages written in the Little Red Riding Hood, but my main thing is trying to get Project Purple manuscript done. I want to get to 20,000 words by the end of this month, if I can, if that's manageable, depending on what happens with tag. Um, because if something crazy happens and I don't know, something happens with tag and like I need to focus on that, then like I obviously need to focus on tag. But Project Purple, on the other hand, until I have any reason to jump back over to tag, I'm focusing on Project Purple for now. So that is writing vlog number 1 for the year. And I am super, super excited to be working on these projects. Feel like they're all so unique and different from each other, and I think that that is like one of the most exciting things. I've always been the kind of person that like jumps around a lot to different things. I mean, I will be like super into reading for like a month, and then like I'll jump into being like super into anime for a month, and then I'll like jump into being like super into writing for a month, and then like jump around a lot just because like I don't know, that's how my brain works. And like I jump around all the time. But even so, I think that these projects are going to hold my attention for a really long time because they are all so different, and if I start to feel like I am like losing my steam for one writing project, I usually will just jump onto the next one and start writing for that one. When I was in my undergrad, I had a teacher that told me that one is better than none, and I've always carried that with me. So even if you write 1 word a day, it's better than writing no words. So I always try to hold that in my heart and try to write at least like a little bit every day. So I'm hoping, like I said, I'm going to try to get to 20,000 words in Project Purple by the end of this month, unless something crazy happens and I am unable to do that. If that is the case, then I will discuss that with you guys in a following in writing vlog 2 when I do it at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. So that is all from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my writing projects that I'm working on. If you guys are working on any writing projects, or if you guys are looking to get started writing, or you have ideas but you're not sure how to get them down onto paper, drop a comment below. So that is my spiel for the day, and I wish you guys the best of luck with your writing projects, and I will see you guys back here for another writing vlog at the either end of this month or beginning of next month. So, happy writing!